Good morning. I'm Jane Ryan, and I am the interviewer for a group of women who are giving us their perspective on the development of the Women's Center in Marquette, Michigan, and the role they've played in its ongoing development. Today, Rosa Diddams is with us, and as she will explain, she's rather new to the Women's Center, but has a good ongoing perspective on it, and she will explain her own personal background and what drew her to the Women's Center, and then the role she's currently playing. Welcome, Rosa.
Thank you. Do you want me to start with my personal background?
Yeah.
Okay, I was born and raised in Rosa, Wisconsin, and then I went to college. I went to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and got a degree, bachelor's degree in special education, and taught school for 4 or 5 years. During that time, I met and married my husband, John Diddams, who is a physician, and part of my work was to put him through medical school. After that, we went to Bremerton, Washington, where he was in the Navy for 2 years, and then was time for him to look for a practice, and he settled on Marquette, and so that's how I happened to get to Marquette. We had 2 children that I raised, and when they were did not work, was a homemaker during that time. When they were in high school, I decided that I needed something else to do with my life, so I went back to school to Northern Michigan University, actually, and took the classes that I needed to take in order to sit for the CPA exam. And so I did sit for the CPA exam, passed it, and worked as a CPA in Sarah Davis's office for like 10 years, I think.
Now, was that a law office or a accountant's
An
office?
accounting office, CPA firm. I started out as working an employee and ended up becoming a partner with her and John Leo. I guess that's pretty much my background. In 1999, my husband retired, and I also did. And so at that time I was not involved in particular any women's organizations or how should I say, non-profitable, charitable type of organizations. Do you want me to go on from here now?
Sure. How that edged into being aware. Yeah.
Okay. I was a part of an investment club in which several of the people that are now on the board of the Women's Center were part of this investment club. And I think that's how I got to know them, really, was in that particular club. At any rate, there at one time, Pat Michelot, and I didn't know, I really, truly have to say that I had almost no knowledge of the Women's Center at that time. I was familiar with Harbor House. I had been involved in a few organizations that had taken up donations for Harbor House. But as far as the Women's Center was concerned in any of their other projects, I was not at all. I had no knowledge at all. Pat Michelot called me up and asked me if I would consider being on the board of the directors, because their grantors had recommended that they have somebody, a CPA if they could, on their board. And so I think I was specifically asked because of my background in accounting. And so at that time I was kind of at loose ends because our investment club had disbanded, and I was treasurer for another organization that Someone, my term had run out and someone else was doing it, and so I said, yes, I would be, I would be happy to do that. But she warned me that it would be a very time-consuming project. I have to say that it was far more time-consuming and far more stressful than she had indicated. I think that I don't know how to say this, but I think that the board members are, how should I say it, extremely dedicated and extremely good. I mean, I've never been on a board that has been that much hands-on, right down to scrubbing floors and whatever. I mean, it's just amazing. And of course, as part of the board, I got to know a little bit more about the Women's Center, and felt like it probably has been the most rewarding thing I've ever done, even though it's stressful and difficult in some ways.
So you felt a personal connection from your work to the mission and what they're doing?
Definitely. And I think it's hard to get that message out into the community. I think that in most cases people don't really have any idea, any very thorough idea of what the Women's Center does. And it was definitely part of being it was a real eye-opener for me.
Picking up on that point, there are certain organizations that I think have to deal with that. They need to respect confidentiality to the max, and yet how do you make it personable? How do you get the community to understand the impact? And
Right.
We are in the process of interviewing some of the recipients of the services who are willing to do that, because those stories are amazing. They've turned life.
Yes. They really are very amazing. Yes, very definitely.
So is your role still primarily as the accountant for?
I am the treasurer and the chairman. I'm the treasurer, the board treasurer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the chairman of the finance committee. Yes, and a big part of my role is in the financial aspects of, which really encompasses pretty much everything. Aspects of the whole situation. It's been a struggle to get funds to cover our costs. I know that a lot of nonprofit organizations go through that, and I know that people in the community feel like they've been pressured a lot to contribute. But I think that the one thing that the Women's Center has going for it that a lot of the other organizations that I contribute to is that most things that I contribute to are like, I don't know if I can mention this, but like the Marquette Symphony or something like that, which I'm getting something out of. I mean, I may be contributing money, but it's benefiting me. I feel like my contributions to the Women's Center are totally non-selfish, whereas the other contributions that I make, even to a church, I mean, it's kind of a selfish thing because you're benefiting from the building and the congregation and all that sort of thing. Whereas I feel like this is just a totally unselfish thing to be involved in the Women's Center and to contribute to it.
Well, and you're seeing the financial challenges, which, as you said, many groups are going forward or dealing with. But do you feel there's a light at the end of the tunnel? There was a period in the history that we've heard about where grants and those sort of supports were there and really quite generous. It allowed them to expand their services, and the women's centers had to retract and consolidate a little more. What are you looking into the future? What are you hoping?
You know, that's really hard to say, because everything is so iffy. You know, you don't know. I mean, grants could open up. You know, the granting to these. I mean, really, basically, most of our funds come from government grants, and so if the government grants, if they cut back on that, that really affects us. If they enlarge on the grants, then, you know, it's much better for us. So, I mean, right now we're managing to get along, and you know, that's
Right now.
kind of all that I can say is that right now we're managing to get along. But it is difficult. It's difficult, and it's a little depressing, because you just, you know, because the future is so uncertain, because you don't know what's going to happen with these government grants. There are times when the board feels like they are, can't think of the word to use, when they're burnt out, I guess that's what I want to say, because of all of the fundraising that's required, and the struggle to find, you know, to find donors. But I guess, you know, I don't think I can add anything to that. I mean, I guess I really have to say is that we're doing all right now. Whether we will in the future or not, I mean, we're managing to pay our bills.
Mm-hmm. And you're actively involved. There are grant writing skills within staff and board. Are people constantly on the alert for grants that might be available or support?
Yes, there are board members. We do have a person that we have hired that helps us with grant writing, and has done really a very good job at finding grants for us. And
Past interviewees have shared about the passion of the board and the things that you did, and yet you mentioned the word burnout, and at some point you would hope that there would be funding so that a treasurer could be paid for time, or you know, some of these jobs that are done. I know there are managers. Yeah.
As the treasurer, I don't need to be paid for my time. I would just like to be able to have a smile on my face and think, oh, we're doing fine, you know.
Where you have to
yes,
take a more defensive.
Yes,
we need
we do have a finance manager, you know, that does the that really does
nitty gritty.
the bookkeeping and you know, gets the financial statements together and all that sort of thing. And we have had some how should I name it? That's been up and down with our finance managers in terms of their being able to handle things. But right now, the one that we have right now is doing a very good job.
Good. As I heard your background story, you and I are contemporaries and followed the more traditional roles, but we were fortunate enough to be able to get back into the work scene, back to school, do these things. How do you view the mission and the stage in terms of supporting women's efforts to break the glass ceiling and do some of these things? Is that part of your dedication to this, the role that the Women's Center plays in that? Or, as I understand, other parts of the mission, obviously having Harbor House there to help women who've been, and men who've been victimized in some way?
And certainly the philosophy of the board is that they would like to, you know, that they are feminist, should I say, and they support, certainly support women being more, having a greater role in society and being more, you know, in more powerful positions and so on. But I think as far as the Women's Center right now is concerned, that is something that we've had to put on the back burner because there's so much that needs to be done right now and so much of our funds that have to go to actually supporting victims, survivors of sexual and domestic violence. So
That would be the priority now.
that's the priority right now. Yes.
Okay, and that's good from a historic perspective to know that you've had to prioritize,
Right.
given
Right.
limited funds.
Right.
Because again, historically, these interviews have revealed how much they did to educate women and to
Right,
help them
yes.
get into non-traditional roles or go back to
Right.
school or
Yes, and I understand that, and I think it kind of started out that way when it was at the university.
Mhm.
You know, the Women's Center started out that way, and certainly that has been part of their what they've done in the past, and of course we would like to be able to continue on that road because I think particularly right now that particularly young people have become relatively I don't know if confident or what the word is exactly, but kind of lax or kind of thinking that that things are this way, you know, and nothing.
taking it for granted.
Taking it for granted, yes, taking for granted what some of the people in the Women's Center in the past and others have worked very hard to achieve for women, and I think that's too bad because you have no guarantee that things are going to continue the same.
And I think
not even continue the same.
I think that's what relates to the passion you've described from the founding mothers, is they don't want to see that lost. You know,
Yes.
it's a holding
Yes.
action maybe, but
Yes. Yes.
and that's why, from my perspective, over time doing these interviews, it's wonderful to see what you call new blood, somebody like yourself entering and helping people move on. Is there an effort to recruit younger people to the board? Is that a hard thing to do? Do you know?
Yes, there is an effort, but it is a difficult thing to do. You know, I mean, young people. I think that young people have just become complacent, and they don't. I mean, I shouldn't probably be saying that, but you know, I'm thinking just in terms of my children. They're busy doing other things, and of course.
And they don't remember that it was any different
No,
because
that's
that wasn't
yes,
a part of their
yes,
life.
Yes.
They saw their
And so-
mother get her go
Right,
on and return
yes.
to the workforce.
Yes,
and yeah.
right, yes, right. And so, yes, it's difficult to get young people, and it's difficult to get them interested, not only involved, but also interested.
So that would have to be part of the current mission
Yes,
to be
yes,
doing that.
yes.
Rosa, we've touched base on a lot of the issues. Is there anything you'd like to particularly share in terms of your own experience, or you've done a lot of that, but have we
Yes,
overlooked
no,
anything?
I don't think anything else other than the fact that how impressed I am with the board of directors and what they've done, and also with the staff. There was a while when we were, our staff is not paid as well as we would like, and so we were trying to figure out some way that we could do a little something that would help them to connect a little more with the board. So we started having these brown bag lunches, and where the staff got together and board members, any board member that wanted to come, and staff that wanted to come would come and get together and bring your own lunch and so on. And we got some outside people in to talk to talk to them about other various other programs that were available that they might be able to make use of.
Sort of the networking
Yes.
principle? Oh, good.
Yes. And I was, of course, I hadn't really had that much contact with with the staff other than the director, and I was very, very impressed with the staff. That's the only other thing that I could say is at how dedicated they were to the mission.
And I've learned through the interviews that some of them have come through the ranks. They've seen
Yes,
the Women's
yes,
Center from
yes.
different perspectives,
Yes,
and that's
yes.
excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing, and we hope we can look into the future and continue these interviews and see the progress that's been made. But right now, the holding action seems to be the main
Yeah,
effort.
yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
Rosa.
Okay, thank you.